The polished gleam of the 1967 Mustang Fastback was supposed to be a monument to our 10 years, a symbol of effort, dedication, and shared history. I'd spent 3 years restoring her, pouring weekends and late nights into bringing her back to life. Every bolt tightened, every panel sanded, every inch of chrome polished felt like an investment in our future, a tangible representation of the life Clara and I had built here in Boston. Our brownstone, nestled in a quiet, tree-lined street in the South End, felt solid, much like our marriage had. We were Ethan and Clara, the successful couple, me in finance, her climbing the ranks at a downtown law firm. Comfortable, stable, looking forward to the next chapter, even if that chapter didn't include kids, a decision we'd made early and never regretted. The Mustang, a deep, shimmering Highland green, was my anniversary gift to her. She'd cried when she saw it, burying her face in the worn leather seat, the scent of old car and new upholstery filling the garage. "It's perfect, Ethan," she'd whispered. "Absolutely perfect." I felt a profound sense of satisfaction then, the kind you get when years of work culminate in something beautiful and appreciated. That feeling, I now know, was a cruel illusion. The first crack in the facade appeared subtly, like a hairline fracture in the Mustang's flawless paintwork. It was a Tuesday evening, a few months after the anniversary. Clara had taken the car into the city for a meeting. She usually drove her sensible sedan, but had wanted to show off the Mustang. When she got back, pulling into the attached garage beneath the brownstone, something felt off. Not with the car itself, but around it. I noticed it as I walked past, heading towards my workbench, a faint, unfamiliar scent. Not the rich, aged leather and gasoline I associated with the Mustang, but something cheap and cloying, like a discount air freshener trying to mask something else. I dismissed it. Maybe she'd picked something up in the city, a passenger, harmless. A week later, the Mustang developed a strange, intermittent rough idle. Nothing major, but annoying. Clara mentioned taking it to a mechanic near her office, a place called Leo's Auto. She said the guy seemed knowledgeable about older cars. I raised an eyebrow. "Leo's? Why not take it to Frank's? He knows the Mustang inside and out. He did the restoration work." Frank was my trusted mechanic, a craftsman in his own right, located across town in Watertown. Clara shrugged. "Oh, this place was just convenient, right there. And Leo seemed nice, fixed it up quick." She was overly casual, a little too quick to change the subject. That's when the first tendril of unease wrapped around my gut. Convenient? For a car I'd painstakingly restored, convenience wasn't the priority. Expertise was. The unease festered. I found myself glancing at the Mustang differently, the symbol of our love now tinged with suspicion. Little things accumulated. Clara was suddenly protective of the car. If I offered to take it for a spin, she'd make an excuse. She started leaving later for work, sometimes saying she needed to check something on the Mustang. Her phone, usually left lying around, was now always with her or face down. I told myself I was being paranoid, that 10 years of a good marriage didn't just evaporate because of a rough idle and a new mechanic. But the feeling persisted, a low hum of dread beneath the surface of our comfortable life. One Saturday, I decided to take matters into my own hands. Clara was out shopping. I went into the garage. The Mustang sat there, silent and beautiful, mocking me. I opened the driver's side door, breathing in the familiar scent, or what should have been the familiar scent. The cheap air freshener smell was back, stronger this time. I started looking, not for mechanical issues, but for anything out of place. Under the seats, in the glove box, in the side pockets. That's when I found it. Tucked deep under the passenger seat, almost out of sight, was a small crumpled piece of paper. It was a receipt. Not for a repair, but for a motel room. A cheap, no-name motel out in the suburbs, dated 2 weeks prior. And scrawled on the back a phone number and a single initial, L. My hands trembled. The blood drained from my face, leaving a cold, hollow ache in my chest. Motel? With L? The mechanic. Leo. It hit me with the force of a physical blow. The convenient mechanic. The protective behavior around the car. The phone. Clara. Betrayal. The word echoed in my mind, a harsh, grating sound. I stumbled back, leaning against the workbench, the smell of oil and varnish suddenly sickening. My Mustang, the car I poured my heart into. Used for this. It felt like a violation, not just of our marriage, but of something deeply personal to me. I didn't confront her immediately. The shock was too profound, the pain too sharp. I needed proof, undeniable, absolute proof, before I shattered our world. The motel receipt was damning but circumstantial. L could be anyone, though deep down I knew it was Leo. My meticulous nature, usually applied to financial models and car restoration, turned towards investigation. I discreetly checked our joint credit card statements, looking for unusual charges. Nothing. I considered hiring a private investigator, but the thought felt dirty. This was my life, my marriage. I had to see it myself. I remembered the mechanic's shop Clara had mentioned, Leo's Auto. A quick search online gave me the address, a few miles outside the city centre, in a neighbourhood that looked less like brownstones and more like aging industrial buildings. I needed to see him, to see his reaction. I concocted a plan. My own car, a reliable sedan, was due for an oil change anyway. A perfect excuse. A few days later, I drove to Leo's Auto. The neighbourhood was exactly as the online pictures suggested. Faded brick buildings, cracked asphalt, the air thick with the smell of exhaust fumes and stale grease. Leo's shop was small, tucked between a tyre store and a boarded-up storefront. A couple of beat-up cars were parked outside. I pulled my sedan into the lot. A young guy, maybe mid-20s, emerged from the garage bay, wiping his hands on a rag. He was lean, with dark, messy hair and a friendly, open face. Not conventionally handsome, but young. And there was a certain easy confidence about him. "Hey there," he said, approaching my car. "What can I do for you?" "Just need an oil change," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "And maybe a quick look at the brakes. They feel a little spongy." It was a lie, but a plausible one. He nodded, looking at my car. "Sure thing, we can get that done. Might be a bit of a wait, though. Got a few ahead of you." "No problem," I said. "I can wait." He started to turn towards the garage. Then I stopped him. "Hey, quick question," I said, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Do you happen to know a woman who drives a classic Mustang? A green '67 fastback?" He paused, the rag still in his hand. His friendly smile didn't falter, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? Caution? He gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "Yeah, I think so. Nice car. Comes in sometimes." "She's my wife," I said, watching his face intently. "Clara, she mentioned you did some work on it recently." The smile tightened, the flicker in his eyes intensified. He didn't look away, but his posture shifted, becoming slightly more rigid. "Oh, right," he said, his voice a little less easy now. "Yeah, the green Mustang. Good customer." "Good customer," I repeated, letting the words hang in the air. "She seems to like your work." "We try our best," he said, recovering slightly. He seemed eager to end the conversation. "All right, I'll get your car pulled in when I can. Just have a seat inside if you want." "Thanks," I said, but I didn't move. I just looked at him, this young man who had, by all indications, invaded my life, my marriage, using the symbol of my love as his vehicle. He met my gaze for a second, then looked away, clearing his throat. He knew. He definitely knew. My suspicions solidified into cold, hard certainty. He was Leo, and he was involved with Clara. I left his shop that day with my oil changed and my brakes untouched, but with a mind racing. The encounter had been brief, inconclusive to an outsider, but for me it was the confirmation I dreaded. My wife was having an affair with a mechanic young enough to be, well, not my son, but certainly my younger brother, and it was happening, facilitated, perhaps even sparked, by the car I had given her as a gift. The irony was a bitter, burning sensation in my throat. The pain was immense. It was a physical ache, a crushing weight on my chest that made it hard to breathe. I went home, went through the motions of the evening. Clara was there, her usual self, asking about my day. I lied, told her the oil change went fine. The mechanic seemed competent. She seemed relieved, too relieved. Was she testing me? Did she suspect I knew? The thought added another layer to the pain. The deception wasn't just hers, it was now mine too. That night, after she was asleep, her breathing deep and even beside me, I got out of bed. The house was silent, save for the gentle hum of the old radiators. I went to her bedside table. Her phone was there. I knew her passcode, our anniversary date, a cruel joke now. My hand shook slightly as I entered it. I had never invaded her privacy before. The thought felt wrong, a violation of the trust that was already broken. But I needed to know the extent of it. I needed to see the truth, no matter how ugly. I went straight to her messaging apps, nothing immediately obvious. Then I found it. A separate app, hidden in a folder labelled Utilities, a burner phone app. My fingers fumbled as I opened it, and there, at the top of the message list, was a contact simply labelled L. My breath hitched. I opened the conversation. The messages were explicit, graphic, a timeline of betrayal laid bare in crude language and suggestive emojis. It wasn't just a cheap fling, as I would later try to tell myself to make it easier. It was passionate. They talked about meeting in the Mustang, about the motel, about his shop. They talked about us, about me, and the details were sickening. Dates, times, places. It had been going on for months, starting shortly after the Rough Idol incident. The check engine light at the dealership. Was that when it started? Was that just a cover? The scraped rim? Another excuse to go see him? The pieces clicked into place, forming a horrifying mosaic of lies and deceit. I read until my eyes burned, until the words blurred on the screen. I felt numb, detached, as if I were reading about strangers. But the cold, hard knot in my chest was real. The betrayal was real. My wife, the woman I loved, the woman I built my life with, had been sharing intimate details of our lives, our sex life, with this kid, and using the car I had poured my heart into as their rendezvous point. That detail, the Mustang, felt like the deepest cut. I placed the phone back exactly where I found it. I stood there in the dark bedroom, looking at her sleeping form. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. The contrast with the vile words I just read was jarring, surreal. For a moment, a dark, dangerous impulse surged through me. But it quickly subsided, replaced by a cold, clear resolve. Anger was a fire that consumed. I needed something colder, something that could be directed, controlled. I needed her to feel this gut-wrenching, soul-crushing pain. She had to pay, not just with a divorce. That was too easy. She had to lose something she valued as much as I valued what she had destroyed, her career, her reputation, the polished image she presented to the world. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the messages replaying in my mind. The pain was a constant companion, a dull ache that occasionally flared into white-hot fury. But beneath the fury, the cold resolve hardened. By morning, when Clara woke up, I had a plan. Not a fully formed one, but a direction. Divorce was inevitable. But first, retribution. Calculated. Precise. Using the very instrument of her betrayal against her. The Mustang. I called in sick that day, and the next. I couldn't function. My mind was a whirlwind of pain and planning. I started researching Clara's work schedule, her upcoming projects. I knew about the major client pitch she was preparing for. It was a huge deal for her firm, and she was the lead. Her reputation, her future advancement, hinged on it. Perfect. Over the next week and a half, I played the part of the supportive husband. It was the hardest performance of my life. I listened to her talk about the pitch, about the client, about the pressure. I even helped her rehearse her, playing the role of the skeptical client, asking tough questions. Each time she thanked me, each time she smiled at me, a wave of nausea would wash over me, quickly followed by a surge of cold determination. I checked the burner phone again a couple of times, just to make sure it wasn't a bad dream. It wasn't. They were still communicating, still meeting. The fuel for my plan was constantly replenished. I spent hours in the garage, not working on the Mustang, but studying it. I needed to disable it in a way that wasn't immediately obvious, something that would take time to diagnose, time she wouldn't have. I considered the battery like the original story, but that felt too simple, too easily fixed if she called roadside assistance. I needed something subtler, something that would require a mechanic, but delay her significantly. I settled on a less obvious but crucial component, perhaps a specific relay switch or a tricky fuel pump issue that mimicked other problems. I practiced locating it, disconnecting it, reconnecting it in the confined space under the hood. My hands, usually steady, trembled with anticipation. The night before her big pitch arrived, the air in the brownstone was thick with Clara's anxiety and my own suppressed excitement. We went over her presentation one last time. She was nervous but confident. "I think I've got this, Ethan," she said, squeezing my hand. "Thanks for helping me practice. It really made a difference." I smiled, a hollow, practiced smile. "You're going to crush it, honey," I lied. "Just get a good night's sleep." She went to bed early. I waited, listened to her breathing deepen into sleep. The house was silent. I crept out of bed, my movements slow and deliberate. I went to her bedside table and took her phone. I knew her main phone password, but I also knew about her cloud syncing. I accessed her alarm settings through my own connected account and disabled the alarm she had set for 6:30 a.m. Then I went to her hidden burner phone and turned the volume off completely. I placed both phones back. Downstairs in the garage, the Mustang sat bathed in the dim light. My heart pounded, a drumbeat against the silence. This was it. The instrument of betrayal would become the instrument of ruin. I opened the hood, the familiar scent of oil and aged metal now laced with the faint, lingering smell of that cheap air freshener. Focusing my mind, I located the component I had chosen. My fingers, guided by practice and adrenaline, worked quickly and precisely in the cramped space. A small click. The connection was broken. I closed the hood, making sure everything looked undisturbed. I tried to start the car. Nothing. A satisfying, absolute silence. But I wasn't done. I went to my own sedan parked next to the Mustang. I opened the trunk and pulled out the small portable air pump I kept there. I knelt by the front passenger tire. With a quiet hiss, I began deflating it. Not completely flat, but low enough that it would be obvious, undrivable at speed, and would take precious minutes to inflate. I wanted to eliminate any easy alternative for her. She had to be late. Critically late. I put the pump back, closed the trunk. I stood there in the garage, looking at the two cars, the beautiful sabotaged Mustang, my own disabled sedan, symbols of a life meticulously built and now meticulously dismantled. A strange calm settled over me, a chilling sense of purpose. I had turned the betrayal into a weapon, aimed squarely at the heart of her professional identity. I went back upstairs, back to the silent bedroom, and lay beside my sleeping wife. I felt no guilt, only a cold, hard satisfaction. I slept soundly for the first time in weeks. The next morning I woke up before her as planned. The clock on the bedside table read 6:45 a.m. I reached over and turned her main alarm back on, setting it for 7:10 a.m., a final, cruel touch. I lay there, listening to the sounds of the house waking up, waiting for the inevitable chaos. At 7:10, her alarm shrieked. She sprang out of bed, a flurry of panicked movement. Oh God, the alarm didn't go off!" she mumbled, rushing towards the bathroom. I feigned sleepiness, stirring slowly. What? Alarm? By the time she was dressed, makeup hastily applied, grabbing a quick cold coffee, I hadn't started the machine for her, it was 7:55 a.m. Her pitch was at 8:30 a.m. across town in the financial district. Cutting it close even on a good day, I heard her rush down to the garage, the door opening. Then silence, a pregnant pause, followed by a frustrated sigh, then a sharp, anxious shout. "Ethan, the Mustang! It won't start!" I walked down slowly, putting on my best concerned expression. She was standing by the driver's door, her face pale with panic. "What's wrong?" I asked, my voice full of faux sympathy. "I don't know. Nothing happens. No sound, no click, nothing." "Let me take a look," I said, opening the hood. I peered inside, pretending to examine the engine, tapping random components. That's weird. Battery seems fine. Connections look good. I dragged it out, asking her to try starting it again, shaking my head with feigned confusion. 5 minutes ticked by, then 10. Her panic was palpable. She was practically vibrating with anxiety. Tears were welling in her eyes. Maybe it's the starter," she stammered, her voice tight with fear. "Could be," I agreed, knowing exactly what it was and that it wasn't the starter. "But accessing that is tricky. Takes time. You don't have time." She looked at her watch, her eyes wide with desperation. It was 8:15 a.m. Okay, I'll take your car," she cried, turning to run back upstairs for my keys. "Wait," I called out, stopping her at the door. "My car? I think I have a flat." Her head snapped around, her eyes blazing with a mixture of fury and despair. "You're kidding me!" "No, look," I said, pointing to the obviously deflated tire. "Must have happened overnight." For a second, I thought she might scream or cry or hit me. But the urgency of her situation overrode her reaction. She ran to the trunk of my car, yanked out the portable pump, and started attaching it to the valve stem herself, her hands shaking. The hiss of the pump was the only sound in the tense silence of the garage. It took agonizing minutes for the tire to inflate enough. She packed the pump away frantically, tossed it in the back seat of my sedan, and jumped behind the wheel. "I'm going to be so late," she whispered, more to herself than to me, her voice thick with unshed tears. "Drive carefully," I said, stepping back as she reversed out of the garage, the car screeching slightly as she accelerated too quickly down the street. I watched her go, a profound sense of cold triumph washing over me. It was done. The trap was sprung. The instrument of her betrayal had delivered its retribution. I went back inside. The house felt quiet, empty. I went to the garage and, with a few quick, practiced movements, reconnected the component in the Mustang. It started with a roar, powerful and smooth, as if nothing had ever been wrong. I smiled. Perfect. No evidence of tampering. I then re-inflated my own tire properly. The waiting was the hardest part. I logged into my work laptop, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying the morning, picturing Clara's frantic drive, her arrival at the firm, the faces of the partners and the client as she burst in, late and flustered. I imagined her colleague Marcus stepping in, smooth and prepared, seizing the opportunity. It was almost 2 hours later when I heard my car pull back into the garage. The sound of the engine cutting off felt heavy, final. I took a deep breath, straightened my tie, and went to the door leading from the kitchen to the garage. I put my game face on, concerned, loving husband. She walked in, and the sight of her hit me harder than I expected. Her hair was messy, her face blotchy and tear-streaked, her eyes red and swollen. She looked utterly broken. My initial surge of triumph was momentarily tempered by the raw, visible pain radiating from her. But then I remembered the messages, the motel, the disrespect, the betrayal that had brought her to this point. The flicker of sympathy died. "Honey, what happened? You're back so early," I said, rushing forward, putting an arm around her. She collapsed against me, sobbing, her body shaking. Her words were muffled, choked with tears and snot, but the message was clear. She had been late. Very late. Marcus had stepped in. He'd nailed the presentation. She'd been pulled into a room immediately after, fired, on the spot. Losing the firm such a significant potential account because of her tardiness and failure was unacceptable. She talked about the whispers, the stares, the sheer agonizing humiliation of gathering her things and walking out. "Oh, God, Ethan," she wailed, pulling away to look at me, her eyes full of pain and confusion. "It was the car! That stupid Mustang! If it hadn't broken down—" I nodded, my expression grave. "I know, honey. Unbelievable. That mechanic, Leo. I told you taking it somewhere new was risky. He must have done something to it last time. This is all his fault." I saw it then, a flicker of something in her eyes. Not just pain, but dawning realization. Leo, the Mustang, the connection. Her sobbing quieted slightly as her mind, despite the shock, began to process the implication. I pressed on subtly. "Honestly, that guy caused all this. What a disaster." She didn't respond, just stared at me, her face a mask of devastation. She spent the rest of the day in a daze, then started drinking heavily that evening. I told her I had a splitting headache and needed to lie down, leaving her downstairs with her wine and her grief. I didn't have a headache. I was upstairs on my laptop, emailing my lawyer. The papers needed to be ready. Now, I endured her tearful, drunken laments for 2 more days. The facade was wearing thin, but I needed the documents. When they were ready, delivered discreetly to my office, I waited until she was sober, the morning after a particularly rough night of drinking. She was sitting at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee, looking haggard and lost. I walked in, holding the envelope. My heart was calm, my hands steady. "Clara," I said. She looked up, her eyes weary. "Yeah, Ethan?" I placed the envelope on the table in front of her. "These are divorce papers." Her eyes widened, her mouth falling open slightly. "Divorce, Ethan? What? Why now? After everything? My job?" A cold, hard smile touched my lips. This was the moment, the culmination. "Why now?" I repeated softly. "Because I know, Clara. I know all about you and Leo, about the Mustang, about the motel receipt I found, about the burner phone." Her face went white. The color drained completely, leaving her looking like a ghost. She stared at me, speechless, her eyes wide with shock and horror. "You used the car I restored for you, the car that was supposed to be a symbol of our life together, as your little love nest," I continued, my voice low and steady, each word a carefully aimed dart. "You betrayed me, our marriage, everything we built, and for what? A cheap thrill with a mechanic half your age?" Tears started streaming down her face again, but these were different. These were tears of shock, of being caught, of the world she knew imploding. "Ethan, I," she stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. "Don't. I cut her off. Don't even try. I saw the messages, Clara. I know exactly what you did. I leaned forward slightly, my voice dropping to a chilling whisper. And I know how you lost your job. Her eyes, already wide, somehow widened further. A terrible understanding dawned in them. She looked from my face to the Mustang visible through the garage door, then back to me. The car, she breathed, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. You did that. I didn't deny it. I didn't need to. My silence, the cold look in my eyes, was confirmation enough. And then I couldn't help it. A laugh bubbled up from my chest, a harsh, bitter sound that felt like breaking glass. I laughed at her face, at her shock, at the perfect, brutal irony of it all. Poetic justice, wouldn't you say? I said, wiping a tear from my eye, not of sadness, but of a twisted, painful relief. The car that led you to him, leading you to ruin. Seems fitting. She was hysterical now, sobbing uncontrollably, pushing herself back from the table. How could you? What kind of person? The kind of person you made me, I said, the laughter gone, replaced by cold finality. Pack your things, Clara. I want you out of here today. Don't contact me. Don't contact my lawyer. You have a few hours. I walked away, leaving her alone with the papers and her shattered life. I got in my car and drove. I drove aimlessly around Boston, the city that had been the backdrop to our life, and now it's ending. The pain was still there, a dull throb, but it was different. It was mixed with a strange sense of emptiness, but also relief. The constant anxiety, the gnawing suspicion, the agonizing pain of not knowing or pretending not to know, it was gone. Replaced by the quiet satisfaction of a plan executed, a debt repaid. When I returned hours later, the brownstone was dark. Her car was gone from the garage. Her side of the closet was empty. She was gone. Just like that, 10 years, a marriage, a life built together, reduced to an empty space and the lingering scent of betrayal and gasoline. It's been a few weeks now. The house is too quiet. The Mustang sits in the garage, a beautiful, silent reminder. I haven't touched it. I don't know if I ever will again. I told her parents, kept it brief and factual. They were devastated, but they understood. No grovelling calls from them. And Leo? The young mechanic. I've thought about him, thought about what his role was, how much he knew. Was he just using her? Was she using him? Or was there something more, something I couldn't see from my vantage point of pain and betrayal? The what-if lingers, but ultimately he was just a catalyst. The wound was Clara. The betrayal was hers. I decided to let him go. He wasn't worth the effort. My revenge was aimed at the source of my pain. I feel lighter, like a heavy weight has been lifted. The cost was immense. My marriage, my trust, perhaps even a piece of my own humanity. But the cancer of betrayal has been cut out. The pain is still there, a scar, but it's no longer an open wound. I look at the Mustang, no longer just a car, but a symbol of everything that happened. A monument to my love, her betrayal, and my cold, calculated justice. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't noble. But from where I stand, in the quiet of my empty house, it feels like it was necessary. It feels like it was just. The silence in the brownstone is profound. It's not just the absence of Clara's voice, her footsteps on the stairs, the clinking of her coffee cup in the morning. It's the absence of the tension, the lies stretched thin between us, the unspoken accusation that hung in the air like dust motes in a sunbeam. That's gone now. Replaced by an emptiness that isn't exactly peaceful, but it's clean. It's a different kind of quiet. I walk through the rooms that used to be ours. The living room, where we'd watch movies curled up on the sofa. The dining room, set for dinner parties that now seem like relics of a different life. Each space holds echoes, ghosts of moments that were real, or at least I thought were real. It's strange how quickly the familiar can become foreign, how a shared history can feel like a story about strangers. My office, tucked away on the 3rd floor, feels the most like my own. It's where I spent long hours, building the career that afforded us this life, the life she threw away. It's filled with books on finance, market reports, the tools of my trade, and photos. Photos of us, smiling, on vacations, at events. I haven't taken them down yet. I look at them, trying to reconcile the woman in the pictures with the woman who betrayed me, with the woman I destroyed. They feel like different people. The Mustang is still in the garage. I haven't driven it, haven't even opened the hood since that morning. It just sits there, gleaming under the fluorescent lights, a silent, beautiful accomplice. I sometimes just stand there looking at it, thinking. Thinking about the hours I spent, the sweat, the sheer love of the craft that went into bringing it back to life, and then thinking about it parked outside that cheap motel or in the dusty lot at Leo's Auto. It's a potent mix of pride and disgust. I've started going back to work. The routine is a welcome distraction. My colleagues notice I'm quieter, perhaps a little sharper around the edges, but they don't know why. I haven't told anyone at work. My bosses were understanding about the few days I took off, citing a personal emergency. In the world of finance, discretion is valued. My focus is back on the numbers, the charts, the predictable logic of the market. It's a stark contrast to the unpredictable, illogical chaos of human relationships. The divorce proceedings are moving forward. My lawyer is efficient, professional. Clara has a lawyer too, of course. There's communication, but it's all through intermediaries. No direct contact. I don't want it. I said what I needed to say that morning. There's nothing left to discuss. The financial aspects are straightforward. No kids, assets are clear. The brownstone will likely be sold, another piece of the life dismantled. My parents called. They were upset, of course, hearing about the divorce. But when I told them, calmly, factually, why, the tone shifted. My dad, a man of few words, just said, "Some things you just can't come back from, Ethan." My mom cried, but her sympathy was for me. They knew how much that Mustang meant to me, how much effort I'd put into it for Clara. The betrayal felt personal to them too, in a way. I haven't heard anything about Clara. Has she found somewhere to live? Is she staying with friends? Family? I don't know. And I realize with a jolt that I don't care. The woman I knew, the woman I loved, ceased to exist for me the moment I read those messages. The person who walked out of this house was a stranger, someone who had worn my wife's face but was fundamentally different. I think about Leo occasionally. Did Clara tell him what happened? Did she tell him I did it? Does he know the role his shop, his actions, played in her professional ruin? I picture him, young, maybe a little naive. He seemed awkward when I confronted him. Was he genuinely smitten with Clara? Was she seeking something real with him? Something she felt was missing with me? The what-if still whispers, a faint possibility that maybe her actions weren't just a cheap fling. But even if they weren't, even if she felt something deeper for him, it doesn't change the betrayal. It doesn't change the lies. It doesn't change the pain she inflicted. It just makes the whole situation sadder, perhaps, but not less deserving of consequence. I could try to find him, confront him, maybe cause trouble for his shop. But what would be the point? He was a part of the mechanism, not the architect of my pain. Clara was. My revenge was against her, using the tool she inadvertently provided. It was a surgical strike, aimed at the heart of her public persona, her ambition. It was effective. The feeling now is complex. It's not the pure, burning fury of the initial discovery. It's not the sharp, agonizing pain of betrayal. It's more quiet. A dull ache mixed with a sense of grim satisfaction. I achieved what I set out to do. I made her pay. I made her lose something significant, something tied directly to the catalyst of her infidelity. I took away her career, her reputation, in a public, humiliating way, using the very object she shared with her lover. Was it worth it? I lost my marriage, my home, the future I thought I had. I became someone capable of cold, calculated cruelty. But I also regained a sense of control, a sense that I wasn't just a passive victim. I took action. I delivered justice, my version of it. I stepped back from the photos in my office. The smiles seem distant now. I walk over to the window, looking out at the familiar Boston street, the old brick buildings, the trees starting to show the first hints of autumn color. Life goes on. The city keeps moving. People walk by, living their own stories, their own betrayals, their own quiet acts of revenge or forgiveness. I don't regret it. Not the revenge. The marriage ending, yes. The pain, absolutely. But the act of taking back control, of making her face a consequence directly linked to her actions, that feels right. It feels like a necessary amputation. Painful, yes. Losing some healthy tissue along with the diseased part, but ultimately saving the rest. What happens next, I don't know. Rebuilding, finding a new normal. The house will be sold. I'll find a new place. Maybe I'll get another classic car project, something to pour my energy into that isn't tainted by betrayal. Or maybe I won't. Maybe that part of me is finished. The Mustang waits in the garage. A beautiful, silent testament. A reminder of love given, trust broken, and a calculated cold vengeance delivered. It sits there, gleaming, the symbol of a life that was, and the catalyst for the life that ended. And I am left standing in the quiet, with the taste of ash and triumph on my tongue. The days following her departure were a blur of practicalities, changing locks, sorting through shared belongings, a clinical dissection of a decade of life. Her scent lingered in the bedroom, a phantom echo that was both comforting and repulsive. I packed her things into boxes, each item a small, sharp reminder. Her favourite sweaters, the books she read, the framed photos from her side of the office desk. It felt like curating an exhibit of a life that had ceased to be relevant to mine. I was detached, operating on autopilot, my emotions still muted in the aftermath of the climax. The raw pain had subsided, replaced by a dull ache and the cold satisfaction of a mission accomplished. I spent evenings alone in the brownstone, the silence amplifying every creak and groan of the old building. I ate simple meals, watched television without really seeing it, and went to bed early, the vast expanse of the king-sized mattress a desolate landscape. Sleep came easily, the exhaustion of the preceding weeks finally catching up with me. But the dreams were restless, fragmented images of Mustangs, motel rooms, and Clara's tear-streaked face. My lawyer advised me to keep communication strictly formal, all correspondence through our respective legal teams. Clara's lawyer reached out regarding the division of assets. It was all very civil, very professional. The world of law and finance, the world we both inhabited, provided a sterile framework for dismantling a life built on love and trust. It was ironic, in a way. Our professional lives, the stage for her downfall, now providing the structure for our separation. I avoided the garage for the first week. The Mustang felt like a loaded gun, a beautiful, dangerous object that had been central to the most painful event of my life. But eventually, the mechanic in me, the part that finds solace in the predictable mechanics of machines, drew me back. I went down one Saturday morning, coffee in hand. The car was just as I'd left it, perfect, untouched. The Highland green shimmered under the lights. I opened the hood. The engine bay was clean, a testament to my restoration work. I looked at the component I had tampered with, now reconnected, innocent-looking. It seemed impossible that such a small, deliberate act could have unleashed such chaos, such devastation. I ran my hand over the smooth fender. It felt cold, empty. It was just a car, an object. The meaning, the symbolism, the pain, and the vengeance, that was all human. All mine. I thought about selling it, getting rid of the reminder, but the thought felt wrong. It was a part of my history, a testament to my passion, my skill, and now a testament to something else entirely. A dark monument. Maybe I'd keep it, let it sit there, a silent sentinel in the garage, a reminder of the cost of betrayal and the price of revenge. Work continued to be a refuge. The structured world of finance offered a sense of order that my personal life lacked. I excelled, pouring my focus into complex deals and market analysis. My colleagues saw my dedication, my intensity. They attributed it to ambition, perhaps. They didn't see the emptiness behind the drive, the quiet rage that fueled my focus. I ran into Marcus, Clara's colleague, downtown one afternoon. He was coming out of a high-end restaurant, looking pleased with himself. He nodded curtly, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He probably knew about Clara's firing, maybe even the rumours circulating at the firm. Did he suspect my role? Unlikely. I was just the quiet husband. He probably just saw me as collateral damage, a footnote in Clara's dramatic exit. He didn't know I was the author of that exit. He didn't mention Clara, and neither did I. We exchanged pleasantries about work, the market. He talked about the success of the pitch, the new client, the opportunities it had created for the firm. For him. I listened, a faint, internal smile playing on my lips. He was benefiting directly from her downfall. Another layer of consequence, unintended but not unwelcome. The what-if about Leo and Clara's relationship occasionally resurfaced. Was it just physical? Or was there an emotional connection I couldn't comprehend? Did Clara confide in him about our marriage, her unhappiness? Did she see him as an escape? If so, my revenge hadn't just destroyed a fling. It had destroyed a potential new path for her, however flawed. It made the act feel heavier, perhaps. But it didn't change my conviction that she deserved consequences for her deceit. My pain was real. Her betrayal was real. I never saw Leo again after that day at his shop. I didn't seek him out. He was irrelevant now. A minor character in the grand drama of my life. He was the instrument, not the cause. The cause was Clara's choice. As the weeks turned into months, the sharp edges of the pain began to soften. The memories of the betrayal were still there, but they didn't consume me as they once did. The cold satisfaction remained, a quiet core of resolve. I had acted. I had taken control. I had made her pay. The brownstone sold quickly. It was a desirable property in a good neighborhood. Packing up the rest of our shared life was a final cathartic act. The last boxes were loaded onto the moving truck. I did a final walk-through of the empty rooms. The echoes were louder now, but less painful. Just echoes. I found a new apartment downtown, a sleek, modern place with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city skyline. It felt impersonal, sterile, a stark contrast to the warm, lived-in feel of the brownstone. But it was mine. Only mine, no shared history, no ghosts in the corners, a blank slate. The Mustang went into storage. I couldn't bring myself to sell it, but I couldn't bring myself to keep it in my new minimalist space either. It needed a garage, a place where it belonged. Maybe someday I'd take it out again, drive it on the open road, feel the power of the engine, the connection to the machine. Or maybe it would just sit there, gathering dust, a beautiful, silent, complicated piece of my past. I think about the concept of justice. Was what I did justice? In my mind, yes. It was a form of retribution, a balancing of the scales. She took something precious from me, my trust, my peace of mind, the sanctity of our marriage, and she used something precious to me, the Mustang, to do it. I took something precious from her, her career, her reputation, using the same object as the catalyst. It felt like a proportional response, a mirroring of the damage. But was it right? Ethically, morally? I don't dwell on that. The pain was too deep for abstract philosophy. When you're bleeding out, you don't debate the ethics of tourniquets, you just stop the bleeding. My revenge was my tourniquet. It stopped the bleeding, but it left a scar. Clara is gone from my life. The divorce is finalized. Her career is likely in tatters, at least for now. Her reputation in her professional circle is likely damaged beyond repair. She paid a heavy price. Did she feel the pain I felt? I hope so. I truly hope she did. That was the point. I sit by the window in my new apartment, looking out at the lights of the city. Boston. The city where we built our life, where she betrayed me, where I enacted my revenge. It's just a city. A backdrop. The real story was between two people, a story of love, betrayal, and the dark, complex path of retribution. I am different now. Colder, perhaps. Less trusting. The man who spent years lovingly restoring a classic car as a gift for his wife feels a long way off. But the man who meticulously planned her downfall, who felt a chilling sense of triumph as he watched her drive away in panic, that man is still here. He is a part of me now. The future stretches out before me, vast and uncertain. No shared plans, no mutual dreams, just me. I am 41 years old, financially secure, alone. The cancer is gone, but the emptiness remains. Is that the true cost? Not just what I took from her, but what I took from myself in the process. I don't have the answer. Maybe I never will. All I know is that I survived. I didn't crumble. I didn't let her get away with it. I fought back in my own way. And now I have to live with the consequences. The quiet, empty consequences of winning. The Mustang is in storage. Clara is gone. Leo is a forgotten face. The brownstone is someone else's home now. My life has been reset, wiped clean, but not without leaving indelible marks. Marks on me. Marks on her. Marks on the beautiful green Mustang that started it all. It's a strange kind of peace. Not the warm, comforting peace of a happy life, but the cold, still peace of a battlefield after the fighting is over. The silence remains. And in that silence, I am left with the echo of a laugh that was both triumphant and broken. My own. The days settle into a routine. Work, gym, quiet evenings. I avoid places we used to frequent. The city feels smaller, or perhaps I feel more exposed. I stick to new restaurants, new routes for my runs along the Charles River. The familiar landmarks are too loaded with memories, both good and, now, overwhelmingly bad. My lawyer handles the final details of the divorce. There are papers to sign, assets to transfer. It's a bureaucratic process, devoid of emotion, which suits me just fine. Clara's lawyer communicates efficiently. There are no dramatic pleas, no attempts at reconciliation. It confirms my suspicion that the breach was irreparable. at least from my side. Perhaps from hers too, after what I did. I wonder how she is, where she is. Has she found a new job? Is she still with Leo? The curiosity is detached, academic. She is a character from a finished chapter of my life. Her fate is no longer my concern. The desire for revenge is sated. The need to know the details of her life now is gone. The Mustang remains in storage. I pay the monthly fee without thinking about it. It's an expense like any other. Sometimes I imagine visiting it, lifting the cover, seeing the gleam of the paint. But I haven't. Not yet. Maybe the wound isn't healed enough for that kind of confrontation. I find myself analyzing things differently now. People's motivations, their hidden agendas. I'm more cynical, less trusting. It's a defense mechanism, I suppose. Build the walls higher after yours have been breached so spectacularly. In finance, this kind of analytical detachment is a strength. In life, I'm not sure. It makes connections harder, shallower. I haven't dated. The thought feels exhausting. The idea of opening up to someone, of building trust again, seems like an insurmountable task. The risk feels too high, the potential for pain too great. Maybe that's another casualty of the war. The ability to love, or at least to trust enough to love. My parents visit. They're supportive, worried. They try to encourage me to get back out there, to meet people. I nod, smile, say I will. But the words feel hollow. They don't understand the depth of the change, the way the betrayal and the subsequent revenge have fundamentally altered the landscape of my emotional world. We talk about the Mustang. My dad asks if I'm going to sell it. I tell him I don't know. He understands my attachment to it, the years of work, but he also sees it as a painful reminder. Maybe it's time to let it go, son, he says gently. Some things are just too heavy to carry. He might be right, but I'm not ready yet. I think about the concept of poetic justice again. It felt so powerful in the planning, the execution, the idea of using the instrument of betrayal as the instrument of ruin. It had a certain symmetry, a certain elegance in its cruelty, but now in the quiet aftermath the elegance is gone. It's just ruin. Her ruin, yes, but also in a way, mine. The destruction was mutual, even if the methods and the immediate consequences were asymmetrical. Clara lost her job, her reputation, her marriage, her home. Tangible losses. I lost my marriage, my home, my perceived future, my trust. Less tangible, but perhaps just as profound. And I gained a coldness, a capacity for calculated cruelty I didn't know I possessed. Is that a gain or a loss? The city outside my window is a constant hum of activity. Millions of lives intersecting, diverging, filled with their own quiet dramas and betrayals. I am just one small story in a vast urban tapestry, a story about a man, a woman, a car, and the explosive consequences of infidelity. I sometimes wonder if Clara thinks about that morning. Does she replay it in her mind? Does she understand how deliberate it was? Does she hate me? Does she regret the affair? Or does she regret getting caught? Or does she regret that her convenient mechanic turned out to be her undoing, orchestrated by the husband she betrayed? I'll never know. And that's okay. Her perspective is irrelevant to my healing, my moving forward. My story is about my experience, my pain, my response. It's not about her justification, her feelings, her regrets. That's her story to tell, if she ever does. The emptiness is becoming less heavy, more like a neutral space. A space where something used to be, but is now gone, leaving room for something else. I don't know what that something else is yet. Maybe it's just solitude. Maybe it's a different kind of connection, one built on different foundations. I scroll through my phone contacts. Her name is still there. Clara. I haven't deleted it. It feels like another piece of the history I'm not ready to erase completely. A monument, like the Mustang, to what was lost. The memory of that morning, the panic in her eyes, the tears, the moment of dawning realization when I revealed my hand, it's etched into my mind. It's a powerful memory, a painful one, but also, strangely, a defining one. It was the moment I stopped being the wronged husband and became the architect of my own retribution. It was a moment of empowerment, however dark. I think about Leo one last time. Young Leo, wiping his hands on a rag, that flicker of recognition in his eyes. Was he just a kid having fun? Or was he genuinely involved? Did he feel anything for Clara beyond the physical? Did he know she was married? Probably. Did he care? Probably not enough. He was just living his life, and our paths intersected with devastating results. He walked away from the wreckage unscathed, or so I assume. While Clara and I are left to pick up the pieces. The silence in the apartment is broken only by the distant sound of city traffic, the occasional siren. It's the sound of a life that continues, indifferent to the personal dramas unfolding within its walls. I am part of that hum now. Just another individual navigating the complex, messy reality of existence. The revenge didn't bring back the marriage. It didn't erase the pain of the betrayal. It didn't make me magically happy, but it did give me a sense of closure, a feeling that I wasn't just a victim. I took control. I acted. And now I am left with the quiet aftermath, the lingering taste of a victory that cost me everything. It's a strange victory, a hollow one perhaps, but it's mine. And in the silence of this new life, that has to be enough. For now. Months turn into a year, the seasons change in Boston. The leaves turn fiery red and gold in autumn, snow blankets the city in winter, and spring brings a tentative green back to the public garden. Life finds a way to continue, even after seismic shifts. I've settled into a rhythm. Work is demanding, providing structure and purpose. My apartment feels less sterile now, more like a home, albeit a solitary one. I've bought some art for the walls, plants for the windowsills, small acts of rebuilding. The Mustang is still in storage. I haven't visited it. The thought still feels too charged, too heavy. Maybe it will remain there indefinitely, a relic of a past life, a symbol I'm not yet ready to confront directly. I occasionally hear snippets about Clara through the grapevine, the kind of detached gossip that permeates professional circles. She left Boston. Moved back to her hometown, I think. She's working again, at a smaller firm. The high-flying career she had built here, the one I helped dismantle, is a past chapter for her too. I feel no surge of emotion hearing this, no triumph, no pity, just a quiet acknowledgement of facts. Her life continues, separate from mine. I've started seeing someone, Sarah. She's different. Kind, steady, works as a librarian. She's divorced too, but her story is simpler, quieter. We take things slow, very slow. The walls are still there, built high and strong. I let her see glimpses of the man I am now, the meticulous professional, the quiet observer. I haven't told her about Clara, about the Mustang, about the revenge. It feels like a story from a different lifetime, something too dark and complex to share casually. Maybe someday, or maybe never. The secret is heavy, a part of me I keep hidden. The cynicism is still there, a filter through which I view the world. I analyze people, look for the cracks in the facade. It makes relationships difficult. Sarah is patient. She sees that I'm guarded, but she doesn't push. She seems to appreciate the quiet strength she perceives, unaware of the storm that forged it. The pain of the betrayal has faded into a dull ache, a chronic condition I've learned to live with. It no longer incapacitates me, no longer consumes my thoughts. It's just a part of my history, like a scar from an old injury. The satisfaction of the revenge is also less potent. It was a powerful drug in the moment, but its effects have waned. It didn't bring lasting happiness, only a temporary cessation of pain. I reflect on the nature of revenge. It's often portrayed as a destructive force that consumes the avenger, and in some ways it did. It changed me, hardened me, perhaps made me less capable of simple joy. But it also felt necessary. It was a way to reclaim agency, to refuse to be merely a victim. It was a response to a profound injustice, a way to reassert control in a situation where I had lost it completely. I don't know if I could have healed without it, without making her pay, without seeing a consequence directly linked to her actions. Maybe forgiveness would have been a nobler path, a healthier one. But I wasn't capable of forgiveness then, and I'm not sure I am now. The wound was too deep. The image of Clara's face that morning, the shock, the devastation, it's still vivid. It's a powerful image, a reminder of the impact of my actions. I caused that pain, deliberately, and I felt a chilling sense of schadenfreude in that moment. That part is hard to reconcile with the person I thought I was, the person I want to be. It's a dark corner of my soul, illuminated by the light of that day. I sometimes fantasize about driving the Mustang again. Taking it out on the highway, the engine roaring, the wind in my hair, reclaiming it, not just as a car, but as a symbol of my own resilience, my own journey. But the image of her in it with him is still too strong. It's still tainted. Leo remains a ghost. I never looked for him again. He was just a young man in a mechanic's shop, caught up in something bigger than himself. Or maybe not. Maybe he knew exactly what he was doing. It doesn't matter. He's not my focus. My focus is on rebuilding, on finding a new path. The path is solitary, marked by caution and a quiet reserve. It's not the future I envisioned 10 years ago when I was restoring that Mustang, dreaming of a long, happy life with Clara. It's a different future, shaped by betrayal and revenge. I'm not sure I'm happy, not in the way I was before, but I'm stable, I'm surviving. And there's a quiet strength in that. The strength of someone who faced the worst, lost everything, and found a way to stand back up, even if he had to use some dark tools to do it. The city lights outside my window twinkle in the darkness. Another night in Boston, another night in this new life. It's not perfect, it's not easy, but it's mine, and I built it, piece by piece, out of the wreckage she left behind, and out of the wreckage I created in return. The Mustang sits in storage, a symbol, a reminder, a testament, to a love that died, a betrayal that shattered, and a revenge that, while successful, left its own indelible mark. It's a complex legacy held within the gleaming metal and worn leather of a classic car. My classic car. Tainted, but still mine. 2 years have passed since the divorce, since that morning. The raw edges have smoothed considerably. The pain is a distant echo now, a memory rather than a present reality. Life has a way of moving forward, pushing you along, whether you're ready or not. My relationship with Sarah is steady. She's a calming presence, a contrast to the storm that used to rage inside me. I've revealed more about myself to her, but the full story of the betrayal and the revenge remains locked away. It's a part of me I'm not sure I can ever share, a darkness that might be too much for her or for anyone. It's my secret, my burden, my strange source of strength. I visited the Mustang in storage a few months ago. It was like seeing an old friend, one you haven't seen in years, and the reunion is tinged with both familiarity and sadness. I pulled the cover off, and the Highland green gleamed under the warehouse lights. It was still beautiful, still perfect in its mechanical form. I ran my hand over the fender, the metal cool beneath my fingers. I opened the door, sat in the driver's seat. The scent was still there, the familiar blend of leather, oil, and gasoline. The cheap air freshener smell was gone, thankfully, faded away like the immediate pain. Sitting there behind the wheel, I didn't feel the same visceral connection to the betrayal. It felt more distant, like a story I had read, not lived. The car was just a car again, a magnificent piece of engineering and design brought back to life by my own hands. The symbolism was still there, but it felt less potent, less overwhelming. I didn't start it, didn't drive it, just sat there for a while, remembering the hours I spent working on it, the pride I felt giving it to Clara, the shock of finding that receipt, the cold resolve of planning, the tension of that morning. All of it contained within this machine. I haven't decided what to do with it. Sell it? Bring it out of storage? It feels less like a painful reminder now, and more like a complex artifact. A testament to a significant period of my life, for better or worse. Maybe someday I'll drive it again. Reclaim it fully, or maybe it will remain in storage, a quiet monument to a war fought and won, but not without cost. Clara is a ghost now. I never hear about her anymore. She's vanished back into the anonymity of her hometown, living a life I know nothing about. I hope she's found some peace. I hope she's learned something from all of it. I don't wish her ill anymore. The need for retribution has faded, replaced by a quiet indifference. She is no longer a part of my narrative. Leo, the young mechanic, is even more of a ghost. A face I saw briefly, a name in a text message. He was the spark, but not the fire. I sometimes wonder if he knows the full extent of the damage his brief entanglement caused. Probably not. He likely moved on, unaware of the earthquake he helped trigger in 2 other lives. My life is stable, predictable. I have my work, my routine, Sarah. It's a quiet life, lacking the dramatic highs and lows of the past. There's a certain comfort in that, a hard-won peace. The cynicism remains, a permanent change in my outlook. I still analyze people, still anticipate betrayal. It's a heavy lens through which to view the world, but it feels like a necessary one. Trust is a fragile thing. Once broken, it's almost impossible to fully repair. The internal conflict is less intense now. The man who planned the revenge and the man who is trying to build a new life have reached a fragile truce. They coexist, acknowledging each other's existence, but no longer in constant battle. The cold, calculating part is still there, a quiet capability I know I possess. But it's no longer in the driver's seat. I think about the message of my story, if there is one. Perhaps it's about the destructive nature of infidelity, the way it can shatter lives and transform people. Perhaps it's about the complex, often morally ambiguous nature of revenge and its limited capacity to heal. It can provide a sense of justice, a balancing of scales, but it leaves scars both on the target and the avenger. I don't feel the need to share my story widely. It's too personal, too raw. But writing it down, even just in my head, helps process it, helps make sense of the chaos. The sun sets over Boston, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The city lights begin to twinkle, a million small points of light, each representing a life, a story. My story is just one of them. A story about a man, a woman, a car, and the path he took when she broke his world. It wasn't the path of forgiveness. It wasn't the path of quiet suffering. It was a path of calculated retribution. And it led me here, to this quiet apartment, this stable life, this lingering sense of both loss and strange, hard-won peace. The Mustang waits, a beautiful, silent question mark in my life. What will its final chapter be? I don't know. Maybe it will stay in storage forever. Maybe I'll drive it again, feeling the power of the engine, the connection to the road, trying to overwrite the painful memories with new ones. Or maybe I'll sell it, finally letting go of the last tangible link to the life that was destroyed. For now it waits, and I wait. Living this new life, forged in the fires of betrayal and revenge. A quieter life, a more solitary life. A life that is mine, completely and unequivocally. The silence in the apartment is no longer empty. It's filled with the hum of the refrigerator, the distant sounds of the city, the quiet rhythm of my own breathing. It's the sound of a life that continues, marked but not broken. A life that carries the weight of its past, but looks towards an uncertain future. The story is over, the conflict resolved, the revenge executed, the consequences faced. And I am left in the aftermath, a different man, carrying the scars of the battle. The silence is profound, and in that silence, there is a strange, quiet acceptance. 3 years. It feels like a lifetime ago. The sharp edges are completely gone now, replaced by a dull, constant awareness like a phantom limb. The life I live now is so far removed from the life I had then, it's sometimes hard to believe they belong to the same person. Sarah and I are serious. We've talked about moving in together. It's a big step, a step towards building something new, something shared. It's terrifying and exciting at the same time. The fear is rooted in the past, the fear of trusting again, the fear of being hurt, the fear that the darkness within me might surface and damage what we're building. But the desire for connection, for a shared future, is strong. I still haven't told Sarah the full story. I've told her about the divorce, that it was difficult, that there was infidelity. But the details of the revenge, the calculated dismantling of Clara's career, the use of the Mustang as the instrument, that remains my secret. It feels too extreme, too dark, for the light and hopeful space we're trying to create. Maybe I'll tell her someday when the foundation is stronger. Or maybe it's something I'll carry alone forever. The Mustang. I still pay for the storage. It's become a strange ritual, a monthly reminder of the past. I haven't visited it in over a year. The idea of it sitting there under a cover in a dimly lit warehouse feels right somehow. It's preserved, frozen in time, a symbol of a moment that was both ending and beginning. I saw Leo a few months ago. It was entirely by chance. I was in a different part of the city, running an errand, and I saw him walking down the street. He looked older, maybe a little heavier. He was laughing with a woman, his arm around her. He looked happy. He didn't see me. I watched him for a moment, this young man who had been a catalyst in the implosion of my life. I felt nothing. No anger, no desire for retribution, not even curiosity. He was just a stranger living his life. The power he held over me that day at his shop, the power he represented, it was gone, dissipated into nothingness. Clara remains a ghost. No news, no sightings, nothing. The chapter is closed, the book sealed. I sometimes wonder if she thinks about me, about that morning. Does she understand the depth of the pain that drove me? Or does she just see me as a cruel, vengeful man who destroyed her career? Probably the latter. It's easier to see the other person as the villain. And in her story, I suppose I am. The concept of justice feels less clear-cut now. Was it justice, or was it just pain inflicted in return for pain received? Does it matter? The outcome is the same. Lives were shattered, paths were irrevocably altered. The scales were balanced, perhaps, but the cost was immense for everyone involved. I'm learning to live with the scars, the cynicism, the guardedness, the quiet darkness that is now a part of me. They are reminders of what I survived, what I'm capable of. They are also barriers to intimacy, to vulnerability. It's a constant negotiation, managing the past while trying to build a future. Sarah helps. Her quiet strength, her unwavering kindness. She's teaching me slowly, tentatively, that not everyone is going to betray you, that trust is possible, even after it's been shattered. It's a difficult lesson, one I resist instinctively, but I want to learn it. I want to believe in the possibility of a future that isn't defined by the past. The thought of the Mustang still brings a complex mix of emotions. It's a symbol of love, effort, betrayal, and vengeance. It's a heavy symbol. Maybe someday I'll feel ready to drive it again, to take it out on the open road and let the wind blow away the ghosts. Or maybe it will remain in storage, a permanent monument to a life that was, and the dramatic, painful way it ended. I'm not the same man who bought that car for his wife 10 years ago. I'm not the same man who sat in the dark reading those messages. I'm not even the same man who laughed in Clara's face that morning. I am a composite of all those experiences, shaped and moulded by pain and retribution. The future is uncertain. There are no guarantees. But for the first time in a long time, the uncertainty doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like possibility. The possibility of a new life, built on different foundations, with different dreams. The silence in my apartment is comfortable now. It's not empty, it's peaceful. It's the sound of a life lived, a battle fought, and a fragile peace achieved. The scars remain, a reminder of the cost, but they are no longer bleeding. They are just scars. And the Mustang waits, in storage, a silent witness to a story that is both finished and, in its lingering impact, still unfolding. A story about betrayal, revenge, and the long, complicated road to rebuilding a life. It's not a perfect ending. There are no happy endings when trust is shattered so completely, but it's an ending, and it's a beginning, a quiet, cautious beginning, built on the ruins of the past. 4 years. The brownstone has new owners, new lives being lived within its walls. The Mustang is still in storage, a constant quiet presence in the background of my life. Sarah and I have moved in together. It feels right, comfortable. She is everything Clara wasn't, or at least everything Clara wasn't in the end. She is open, honest, kind. The walls I built are slowly, tentatively coming down. I still haven't told her the full story, the revenge part. It feels like admitting to a crime, even though it wasn't illegal. It was an act of emotional violence, a deliberate destruction. It's a heavy thing to share. Maybe I never will. Some parts of the past are too dark to bring into the light of a new relationship. The pain of the betrayal is now just a memory, a historical fact. It no longer holds emotional power over me. I can think about Clara, about Leo, about that time, without the surge of fury or the crushing weight of pain. It's like looking at old photographs, a recognition of what was, but a detachment from the feelings of the moment. The Mustang. I've decided what to do. I'm going to take it out of storage, bring it to the new place. We have a garage. It's time. Time to confront the symbol, to integrate it into my life, not as a monument to betrayal, but as a piece of my history, a testament to my skill, my passion. It's a beautiful car, a classic. It deserves to be driven, not hidden away in a warehouse. It's a symbolic act, I know. Reclaiming the car, reclaiming the narrative, taking the object that was used against me and making it mine again, on my own terms. It feels like a final step in the healing process, a way of saying that the past happened, it changed me, but it doesn't control me anymore. I haven't seen or heard anything about Clara in years. She's truly gone from my life, a closed chapter, a finished story. I hope she's found peace, whatever that means for her. I don't carry any ill will anymore. The desire for revenge has completely dissipated. It was a temporary state, born out of intense pain. It served its purpose, and now it's gone. Leo, too.